Hey guys, it's me Chan Dragon. So today's video I will do Wushu Pull edition for 5.3. So edition between Mavuika, Citlali, Arlecchino, and Clorinde. So as usual in here I will cover regarding the positive, negative, including should you pull the weapon or constellation, and of course I will give you the recommendation for you to pull. So yeah, let's get started. So let's start with the Pyro Archon Mavuika. So Mavuika in general is very strong, man. DPS legitimately one of the best DPS currently right now. Her strongest point is that she can just front load everything because her nuke is just so strong. You can easily see like 500k, even 1 million. It's not really literally a hard job for her. It's literally quite easy to achieve that. So because of that, maybe if you type people that really like to see big number at once, like for screenshots, she is really easy to trigger that. And another thing is that she mostly we want to play in melt with Citlali because that's her best teammate. And of course, if you play in Vaporize, also still very strong reaction. And yeah, most of her team format I already mentioned before that it's will not far from Citlali, Silonen, maybe Bennett, or even you want to pair Furina, still quite good alternative. She will not far away from that. As for the off-field capability or support that you kinda expect, in general, she's not really a support or typical like off-fielder character. She's more even lesser significant than how Raiden Shogun contribute as an off-fielder, because her pyro application is not really that great. It's decent but not great, especially if you want to compare with the another like pyro archon, which is Shangling. She is apply like literally pyro so much until come to the point Mavuika feels like literally nothing. Like if you already say like you play with Furina with Moalani, Mavuika alone it's not enough to give the pyro application. So because of that, it's okay but nothing really amazing. So most of the reason if you want to aim for Mavuika is mostly her main DPS, not as an off-filler. Off-filler is mostly only her like we can say like complementary stuff. An interesting part regarding Mavuika is that because she actually deals so much damage from the burst, you can actually just utilize her as a sub DPS nuker, meaning that you can just like use her burst and swap right away to another character. So even you put in the team that not synergize well with her, it's actually still fine because we just want to utilize this big damage from the burst. One of the example is Chaska. Chaska is not really synergized well with Mavuika because of course both of them is main DPS, but because like we can just utilize Mavuika as a quick swap and just use burst and move right away, and Chaska can contribute with Night, so they can somehow can work. For the downside or things to note regarding Mavuika, she has a couple of them, which is first that in order for you to get fighting spirit easily, you kinda need Netland character. Outside Netland character, you're still able to perform, of course, kill everything easily, like even the beast, but your damage wise difference if you want to min maxing is very different with Netland character and non-Netland character. Unless you want to put like you want to pull C1, then that can be like at least make the gap kind of lesser, but if we just talk at 0, yeah, that's quite a little bit unfortunate. And regarding the playstyle, but take notes, this is only pure personal take. I think like her gameplay is not the smoothest as main DPS. For me it's quite janky just because you need to write on, write like off, like something like that. You need to kind of remind which format you want to use. It feels a little bit janky, at least for me. And also like holding charge attack, it's not something that I can say quite amazing. And for my recommendation for Mavuika is that first, if you need a very strong main DPS or meta main DPS, then you can consider to pull for Mavuika. And second, if you have a lot of different like Netland character, you have maybe Chaska, Kinich, Moalani, Silon and something like that, then yeah, you can consider to put with Mavuika, because Mavuika with this Netland character actually can synergize quite good because the fighting spirit, so it can help also to get the fighting spirit easier. So if you already have this Netland character, I think getting Mavuika also quite good advantage in here. And third, if you're typical person that really enjoy to see a big number at once, meaning like screenshot number, like easy to deal 500k and 1 million, you like to see those kind of number, then yeah, I really recommend to pull for her because she easily to trigger like 500k, 1 million, something like that. It can entertain your eye. And lastly, of course, if you are Archon collector, feel free to pull for her. For Mavuika, she'll pull for early Constellation or signature weapon. So my recommendation is that if you already have some weapon, let's say like Red Horn, Verdict, or even like Beacon of the Red Sea, then if you just care about power, either like C1 or even like signature weapon, they are both around the same. But if you don't have any solid weapon yet, then if you care about the power only, going for signature weapon is actually better than C1. However, the one that I want to mention in here, if you just care like the overall value, including quality of life, I will say that C1 still better, just because it's not just increasing your attack, but also it gives you easier like to gain fighting spirit, and this one kind of allowing her to not really so much dependent on Natlan character. So because of that, I think it's quite huge in terms of team comp. So depends what you value. So if you really value as an overall, like including quality of life, I feel like the C1 still better than signature weapon. Then if you decide going for C2, then obviously C2 is already better than any like C1 or even signature weapon, just because it increased the base attack, reducing defense to the opponent, and even increase the burst damage itself, which is actually huge. Second character is Citlali. So Citlali is pretty much a solid support character, and I can even say like she quite multi-purpose, because she can provide shield, like literally defensive system, can provide buff and debuff through from like TTDS, and also like have pyro and hydro shred. That's actually nice. And also the last thing is that her cryo application is decent. So because of it, it's very multi-purpose character that we can say you can pretty much put in a lot of different teams. Mostly right now it's enabled a lot of different main DPS to quite work well with melt finally. So you can pair with Arlecchino, quite nice. Get shield also can do melt quite good. Another like Klee. Another thing is that she can become like Shenhe alternative if you don't plan to get Shenhe, because even in Frozen she's still pretty much decent. Although I can say like mostly like in Ayaka team, Shenhe is still pretty much better. At least it still decently works. Regarding Citlali Downside, she doesn't really have actually a meaningful downside, but I just want to highlight or give you some reminder regarding her, which is if you expect her shield will be as thick as Zhongli, then you might be disappointed, because she kind of like trade-off of weaker shield but better, of course, like support capabilities. So yeah, if you just care about like pure like defensive system, then you might be still want Zhongli then. And another thing is that if you expect that her cryo application will be super amazing, then don't expect like that. She's not like the tier like Xiangling application or like Xingzhou something like that, because she's kind of like multi-purpose. Everything is kind of balanced. It's decent but nothing really crazy. And my recommendation for you to pull for Citlali is that first, if you want a versatile or kind of like flexible multi-purpose support, then yeah, you might kind of want Citlali, especially something like related with cryo reaction. Then yeah, she's pretty good because she can provide shield. Second, if you want to play mostly in melt for your pyro main DPS, then Citlali actually can provide an idle upgrade. I already told you like Arlecchino, she can provide an upgrade, and also like Yoimiya, Klee, and most of other pyro main DPS, Citlali actually can enable to make melt to become more viable in pyro main DPS. And third is that if you want a Shenhe alternative, although right now we will have Shenhe rerun, but maybe if you don't want to pull Shenhe anymore, then she actually still can become a Shenhe alternative. Not always the best case, but she actually can work. And the next thing, if you want one of the best teammates for Mavuika, especially if you want to play in melt, then Citlali is actually give quite a huge contribution in there and synergize very well with Mavuika. So yeah, if you plan to make a very good synergized team with Mavuika, then Citlali is one of the characters that I recommend. Lastly, of course, if you like the character gameplay, feel free to pull for her. As for Citlali, should you pull for early Constellation or signature weapon? Then if you're only going until C1, then they're equally as good as weapon. So in the end, it just depends on your preference. So weapon is more like support oriented, like whole teammates, and C1 is more like personal damage oriented. However, in the end of the day, they are around the same. But I want to say, like, considering TTDS or Thrilling Tales Dragon is just so accessible, making feels like going for the weapon will not add so much value because TTDS is just so good. So I just prefer for you to just go for C1. However, if you're going for C2, then absolutely C2 is better than any of C1 or signature weapon, just because you will gain elemental mastery and even will give you additional hydro res and pyro res. It's just so good as a support. The third character is Arlecchino. Arlecchino in general still remains as one of the best main DPS, even though Mavuika already power creep her as the best pyro main DPS right now. It doesn't mean makes like Arlecchino as a completely jokes or give like a huge gap between Mavuika and Arlecchino itself. In fact, that their difference is not that huge. Mavuika only like slightly better if we considering they are both in the Z0. So you should not really worried about that too much. And most of you want to play Arlecchino in general is in Vaporize. However, she actually just pretty much like flexible. You can play like in Monopyro, Overload, even meld right now with Citlali, so it's a brand new team with her. So if you maybe plan to put with Citlali, even like Arlecchino will have some like different type of team that you can try right now. So doesn't mean make like, oh, she completely irrelevant. So you can take note in that. In general, her playstyle is mostly about active playing. It's not like you play Neuvillette like only charge attack and basically that's it, only holding one button. Or like, you need to keep tap. So if your playstyle mostly you really like more like active playing, then maybe you really like Arlecchino playstyle. And regarding Arlecchino Downside, I don't think she has that much that I want to talk, but probably for me, for some people, it requires a little bit adaptation or getting used to, because she has this gimmick of Bond of Life, and Bond of Life, one of the important part is that she cannot getting healed by other character or party. So if you want to getting healed conveniently, you need to use the burst. So because of that, it requires a little bit adaptation, especially if enemy hit hard. Then if your burst is not ready, you at least need to learn a little bit dodging. Maybe some people still provide to use shield, so because of that, it maybe even make more a little bit restrictive for some people. And then regarding like between Arlecchino and Mavuika, because they're quite similar, then if you just care about power itself, for sure it's Mavuika. She is basically stronger than Arlecchino. But even then, the one that I want to give you notes is that the difference is not that crazy high. It's only like slightly better with Mavuika, especially if you can just like do the front load. Yes, Mavuika will be better. But if you want to play like longer run, actually Arlecchino have potential to be a little bit better, because Arlecchino is you can maintain the Bond of Life until full, but of course requires survivability that you don't want to take any damage or do the burst, then she can be even better in that scenario. But that's for the longer like fight. But in general, like a beast, usually it's only like short fight, right? So because of that, Mavuika is a little bit advantage in her. So that's why I say if you care about power, she's better. Like Mavuika is better. However, the one I have to say again is that don't think that about that way too much, because the difference is not a crazy difference. I think the best suggestion is that choose which one that you enjoy more about the playstyle. At least for me, I will choose which one that I enjoy about the playstyle, because the difference is not so much crazy different. If it's just like, okay, Mavuika is 2 times better, then I think you can consider to choose for Mavuika. Because right now the difference is not crazy difference, then you can still choose Arlecchino as an alternative if you enjoy more Arlecchino playstyle. And there are things that also regarding Constellation, if you already have, let's say, like C2 Arlecchino, for sure your C2 Arlecchino will deal more damage than Mavuika. So don't expect like, okay, C0 Mavuika will deal more damage than your C2 Arlecchino. So that also gives you notes. And maybe some of you still value or regarding like overall traversal or exploration, then for me, if you care about it, then I will still consider Mavuika more than Arlecchino, because Mavuika is basically 3-in-1, right? So it's kind of convenient compared to Arlecchino. Although Arlecchino still have the wing flying, that's still convenient, but I think Arlecchino is more versatile. Mavuika is still more versatile. And my recommendation for you to pull Arlecchino is that first, if you still need a very strong main DPS, and I will still consider she as one of the best main DPS, then yeah, you can decide to pull for Arlecchino. Even though already have Mavuika, I think she still have a very good value as a main DPS that you can consider. Second, if you want to play like mostly the pyro reaction and you want to try with different teams, then Arlecchino is one of typical character that you can go, because she can play in Vaporize, Monopyro, Overload, and other types. She pretty much relatively work, and yeah, you can even clear in Abyss without any problem. Third, if you really want the typical character that more active gameplay, meaning that you keep tap the button instead just like holding one button like Neuvillette or even Mavuika, then you maybe enjoy Arlecchino, because she is more like active. You need to tap certain button, and she has a little bit like sequence. So maybe if you enjoy that, you can consider to put for Arlecchino. As for Arlecchino, should you pull for early Constellation or signature weapon? And my recommendation is that if you're going for C1, then for sure C1 is better than weapon, because it will increase the Mask of the Red Death by 100%. So that's basically make all your damage from your first charge attack and even your normal attack while you're in the Bond of Life is getting stronger. So it's just basically quite significant increase. I think Arlecchino so far, I review one of the best C1 character last year, because the increase is literally significant as a C1. Usually it's not like this much. So because of that, if you want to go for C1, then yeah, I really recommend compared to signature weapon. And after that is signature weapon, because the increase is quiet, I can say pretty good. While C2 is actually not bad, but it's only mostly make your charge attack getting stronger. It has the additional damage. It will have like spike animation, but that's about it. So because of that, if my recommendation that C1 is better than signature weapon, but signature weapon is better than C2. The last character is Clorinde. So Clorinde in general is still pretty much a very solid and strong main DPS, although it's not the same level like all those meta DPS like Arlecchino, Nebulet, something like that, but she's still in the stronger side. And the main highlight about her is that she pretty much can play in the different type of reaction and different teams. So she can play in Electro Charge, Hyper Bloom, and Aggravate. All of them still can work pretty relatively good. And so far, the character in Electro that can only do that, only Raiden. Because Raiden is the one that versatile, and so that is Clorinde. If you compare like Kaching, can only play in like Aggravate at the best, and even like Sinnoh mostly in the Hyper Bloom. But Clorinde, she can be in everything. And the other thing is that she's typical DPS that can heal by herself, so you don't really sometimes need an archetype or like team that require healer, so it's quite convenient, even wider team range that she can cover. And other things that maybe if you really like to use a lot of different 4-star, she quite friendly to pair with the 4-star. Literally one of my favorite team with Clorinde is Clorinde, Fischl with Kirara, and I will use Kirahida. So basically only 2 5-star, the rest is 4-star. So quite friendly in terms of like if you don't have so much 5-star character. And regarding Clorinde Downside, and things to note about her is that because Clorinde quite similar like Raiden Shogun, most of the case she will getting overshadowed by Raiden. Just because Raiden act is not as a main DPS but also can work as an outfielder, and even then to utilize as a battery utility, even that can work. And most likely also she's Archon, so become more popular. So because of that, most of the case in terms of pool value, people will go more about Raiden Shogun because she just provide more than just main DPS, while Clorinde just pure main DPS. So because of that, in terms of pool value, she's a little bit getting overshadowed by Raiden. Another thing is that Clorinde at Z0 is quite vulnerable for some certain enemy, so sometimes when you want to do your step attack, it easily can getting interrupted, so yeah, keep that in mind. And lastly, although Clorinde can heal, her heal is not as much as Neuvillette, so because of that, you might be a little bit be careful for some enemy that really hit hard. Maybe some of you maybe still need shield or still need a healer. A good thing about her, although she has Bond of Life, she still can easily getting healed by other character compared to Arlecchino. That's also things I forgot to mention. And my recommendation for you to pull for Clorinde is that first, if you still need a strong and solid main DPS, then you can consider for her. Second, if you like to play in mostly like literally flexible team and flexible reaction in Electro, then Clorinde is maybe one of your best choice, because not so much like Electro that can play in different like reaction as a main DPS, and Clorinde one of them aside Raiden. So maybe if you like those type like character that flexible in different reaction, you can decide to pull for Clorinde. And third is that if you enjoy the typical gameplay that's flashy and fast, you can easily to mobile like left and right, up, down, something like that, then maybe you will enjoy like Clorinde playstyle. And lastly, of course, if you enjoy her character gameplay, feel free to pull for her. As for Clorinde, you pull for early Constellation or signature weapon. So if you going for C1, then I recommend to go for signature weapon first, just because C1 is actually okay, but the increase is not literally that much. It's only like typical C1. The only cool thing about C1 is that you will have additional clones, so it just looks cool, like looks stylish, but the increase of damage is just pretty much minimal. However, if you want to go for C2, then yeah, C2 is already better than signature weapon, just because whenever you do any like reaction related, it will increase her normal attack and her elemental burst, and also you will get like resistant interruption like increase if you have 3 stack. So it's pretty nice also for quality of life. So if I want to give you recommendation in order, is that C2 is better than signature weapon, but signature weapon is better than C1. So yeah, that's pretty much it regarding Wushu Pull edition for 5.3. And in here, if you ask my verdict which one I will choose, actually this time is really hard because most of the 5-star is literally very solid. So in the end of the day, I just give you a couple of the option. So if you care more about main DPS, you have to option. It's between Mavuika or Arlecchino. But of course, if you just care about like power, just pull for Mavuika. But in the end of the day, I thought because the difference is not super crazy different, then I have a better suggestion, like choose which one that you enjoy more about the playstyle. And regarding if you just want more versatility like support, then I really recommend for you to pull for Citlali, because Citlali has more literally versatility if you want to talk compared to Mavuika itself, because she can pair with a lot of different main DPS in Pyro, even like some of the cryo teams she can also pair in that. So because of that, if you care more regarding like versatility and support capabilities, then my choice will be Citlali. So if you like this video, feel free to hit support button and like, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.